Good morning, everybody. This is Justin with SUP Board Guide, and today we have something very special. We are going to be reviewing the Isle Explorer Pro series. It is the latest series from Isle that combines both stand-up paddleboarding and kayaking in one single board. It performs fantastically and has quickly become one of our favorite boards to go to for a lot of different conditions. And I will tell you right now, in this review, we're going to be geeking out a little bit because they have packed in some industry and game-changing technology into these boards. And it's just absolutely phenomenal what Isle has done. So with that being said, let's dive right in. All right, so what comes in the kit when you order an Explorer Pro series? You'll notice this is different than Isle's other boards because when you order this, you basically start with the bag. It's a high quality bag. They've upgraded it. The wheels on it are fantastic. The zippers are fantastic. The fabric is thicker. It's oversized, so it fits the boards really nice. Love that upgrade. So you do get the bag. You also get their 9-inch touring click fin. Good quality fin, snaps right in with the Kimono plugs, but still has the fin plate if you do want to lock it in a little tighter. And then you also get what they call their ultralight leash, and it is very light. You have a little bit of stretch in it, and it's straight, so you almost don't feel like it's back there. I really do like this leash. I would call it a higher quality leash. And that's what's included in the kit. They did it this way to keep the price down for people that, if this is your second or third board, you don't need another hand pump or an electric pump. You may already have a custom paddle, so it keeps the price down on a very high quality, high-tech board. And then if you want those other accessories, you can add them in. All right, so now we get to geek out a little bit on the construction of the Isle Explorer series. Isle terms this their AirTech Prolite construction. Now that fancy word, what does it mean? I'm going to walk you through step by step, starting from the interior of the board and work out. There's a lot here, so let's dive right in. First, at the core of all inflatables are all those space yarns, the nylon strings. Isle has moved to a cross pattern on those nylon strings. What that does, if you think of kind of triangle being the strongest, form in nature, it takes advantage of that fact. And so they're able to cut out some of those nylon strings, but it still makes the board stiffer and it makes it lighter weight. The strings are attached to a base fabric that is woven instead of knitted. Again, in our bend tests, we found woven boards do perform better in terms of rigidity. So another thumbs up on that. Then they move to a single layer, and it's a thicker single layer of PVC that is fused to that base material, right? And so the single PVC envelops that drop stitch core, and by using a single layer fused PVC, they cut down on glue. So again, weight gets reduced, but it's still a thicker layer of PVC, so you still have all the durability that you would ever want out of inflatable SUP or kayak. From there, things get actually even a little more interesting. So on the rails, they have welded the rails instead of glued. Again, same concept. You cut out the glue. Glue, number one, doesn't tend to last as long. They do really well. A lot of the highest quality boards still use glue, but welding can be better because it's a mechanical bond instead of a glue. It also cuts down weight. So they improve the rails with that inner welded rail. And then where they really have changed the game is in what they call their InfinityFiber stringer system. And so what that is, you basically have 6 stringers, right? So in other SUPs, we've seen a lot of different ways that brands have tried to stiffen the board, because a hard board just feels different. When you step on a hard board, you just feel like you're part of the water and you just glide. There's no bouncing around. There's none of that. Back in 10 years ago when inflatables started, they were very bendy. It's just not the same experience. ISLE has termed these as inflatable hardboards, and they're able to do that because of this InfinityFiber stringers. So best way to describe these stringers is you have two on the sides, and they're kind of on the top side here, two on the other side, so that's four on the sides, and then one on top and one on bottom. So it kind of makes like an exoskeleton of, for a great way to explain it, snap bracelets. You know those snap bracelets you had as a kid, you kind of snap them on, they roll up, right? But when they're straight and under tension, they're tight. That's kind of how these function, to where when you pump these up to 17 psi, those InfinityFiber stringers under tension are incredibly stiff, and it gives it that hardboard feeling. But it has to be that combination so far of those 6 stringers from the sides to the top and the bottom. Other companies have just done it on the side, they've done it on the top, they've done it on the bottom, but we've never seen this type of rigidity performance out of any kind of inflatable. And so it's a combination of the drop stitch inner core being high quality, the fused welded rails, the InfinityFiber stringers, all being tied together in the right way that has really increased the rigidity and therefore the performance of these boards. All right, so now let's dive into the features of the Explorer Pro series. So first of all, you have two different options. You have a 12-foot option that's 12 foot by 31.5 by 6 inches thick. And then you have a 14-foot, again, 14 feet by 31 inches, so a little bit narrower, but still also 6 inches thick. And I'm gonna walk through these boards kind of from the nose to the tail. You know, from first glance, when you look at these, one thing that I love is they look very clean and kind of more classic paddleboard look, where the deck pad is open, and so you can move around, you can take kids, you can, you know, just do a lot of different things on there without all the accessory mounts getting in your way. I love what they have done. And they've been able to do that because of this aisle link system, right? So along this edge here, you'll see these little nylon molly loops all the way from the front, running all the way to the back here. And you have different bungees that come with it. So what you can do with that is you can come in and you can just remove a bungee and say, I want this more at the tail and have more cargo storage in the back. I can just put it back here. See if I can get it in without messing it up on camera. Okay, so you just attach it there. One thing to note, you do have to adjust this before you latch it in. And I think they did that because other bungee systems that I've seen, this tends to actually come loose. But as you see, as I pull it here, it's not coming loose at all, which is nice, because if that comes loose and you're trying to stuff a backpack or a cooler underneath it, it doesn't hold it. So this aisle link system is just absolutely phenomenal in terms of versatility with putting backpacks, coolers, dry bags, whatever you want on the board, and just really making these into really nice touring / adventure boards, right? So up front, again, you have this carry handle on both boards, and in there you do have an action mount, so you could put like a camera, a cup holder. Be a little hard to get to while you're paddling, so it's probably more for like a camera type option. And then as you come back, you see this deck pad, right? Again, very clean, very clear of clutter. The deck pad is a very soft deck pad, and at first I kind of felt like I wanted some diamond grooves or a logo stamp to give it a little bit more grip. But the more I used it, the more I've actually liked the deck pad, because it's more on the comfort side of things. If you're worried about your feet getting sore on long paddles, then this you're actually going to really like. How soft and kind of plush the deck pad is, but it still is grippy. You're not going to fall off. On the middle, you have the middle carry handle. You also have, you can't see it great here, so we'll cut into some B-roll, but you have the paddle holders, which is really nice. I don't personally understand why all SUPs don't come with paddle holders. It's a little strip of nylon strap that if you just want to sit out, grab a drink or a sandwich on the lake, you can just put your paddle down and it'll hold it for you out of the way. Love the fact that they included that. And as you come to the rear, you have the rear handle with a D-ring. So yes, it's very basic, it's very clean and very classic, but at the same time, it's as versatile as any other deck pad that I've ever seen. So it's kind of the best of both worlds in terms of features on the Explorer Pro series. Now, that's as a stand-up paddleboard. Phenomenal, knocked it out of the park. But what's extra cool is when you take this and you turn it into a kayak. So, as you can see, this literally can transform from a stand-up paddleboard to a pretty darn good recreational kayak, like that quickly. With that aisle link system, you see how you can put on the seat and you can really adjust that seat forward, back, and you can actually put 2 seats on here. And you've got the seat. And what I like about it is that seat being inflated. Like, I am the least flexible person in the world, and so kayaks are actually pretty hard for me. That's why I generally stick to stand-up paddleboarding more. But this is actually a fun kayak. And by elevating me with giving me a good backrest and then that footrest that I can push against as I paddle, it just makes it an actual kayak experience on an inflatable stand-up paddleboard. And honestly, I don't know if you would call this an inflatable stand-up paddleboard or an inflatable kayak. It really is a hybrid that does a fantastic job. That 6 inches that you have on these boards, it keeps you up out of the water enough where you're kayaking where it doesn't get super wet all the time. And it just performs great. You'll notice on the paddle, which is in the paddle holder, you've got the 2 ends, and with that carbon blade, you can offset the paddle a little bit, just to make it a little more efficient as a kayak. And this is really where you see the fact that this was designed by a very pro-level, high-level kayaker, Jimmy Blakeney, the VP of product at Isle, because, I mean, he's a kayaker first, right? And so that's the essence and the heart of the Pro Series, is the combo stand-up paddleboard, combo kayak, and you can go back and forth so easily that it's a whole new type and category of board. All right, so I want to go over just a couple of the differences between the 12-foot Explorer and the 14-foot Explorer to kind of help you as you watch the performance sections decide which one is best for you. So the 12-foot is 12 foot by 31.5, and it has a weight capacity of 325 pounds. The 14-foot is 14 by 31 inches and has a weight capacity of 375 pounds. Now, where that actually comes into play, right? Because both of these are what I would call a touring/adventure board. You notice those weight capacities are very high. And to be honest, we've actually put more than that of weight capacity on here and did good. I'm not going to tell you to do that, but I'm telling you, we tested above the weight capacities, and I think Isle is being accurate in what they're stating. So really the difference that you have is the length. The 14 feet, you get 2 extra feet of length. It's a little thinner, where this one, the 12-foot measured right at 32 inches for us, which is not abnormal to measure just a little bit off of spec. But with both boards, you can see as you look at the board through the tail, they're pretty wide in the tail for a touring board. That's why I put them in the touring/adventure category, because I leaned more towards the stability and weight capacity, which I think is better for the vast majority of use cases and the vast majority of consumers. So for you, it really comes down to, what are you wanting to do with it? If you are someone that wants to put 2 people on the kayak, I would definitely go with the 14-foot board, because you can legitimately get 2 people on and kayak. It is a ton of fun. Now, if it's just me and like my 9-year-old, then the 12-foot would work. But if you want to go faster, farther, with more people, 14-foot is going to be a little bit higher performing, whereas the 12-foot is going to act a little bit more as an all-around board. If you just also want to do a lot more solo, kind of out paddling, just kind of cruising, not trying to go as fast as you would on the 14. Both boards are fantastic. Really, it just comes down to your personal preference of what you're looking for. Okay, so now we're going to dive into the performance and see how the Explorer series did in our testing. So first of all, we look at stability. And just cut it short, the Explorer series is one of the most stable touring / adventure boards that we've tested. You know, those weight capacities, in this case, I've got the 12 foot, you know, being 325 pounds to 375 pounds, and being a little wider than some of the other classic touring boards, really does lean towards the stability. And you'll see this throughout all the rest of the performance sections. But the other part that really helps that out is the rigidity, because it does feel much more like a hard board than other SUPs that we've tested. And so in our bend test, right, these boards bent just under a ½ an inch. And so that's 170 or 150 pounds of sandbags that we put on sawhorses right in the middle, and to only have ½ an inch bend is unheard of. I didn't believe it. In fact, me and Laura have tested these 5 times, and that's just what they are. They are stiff as hell. And so you do feel that in the stability, because it doesn't bounce around. So you have the stringer that runs from all the way to the front to about here on the rail. And what that does, and I'll try to show it to you, but as you kind of move and you kind of, you know, this is going to be an exaggeration, right? But as I try to get the board to flex, right? Again, it's very rigid through the core of the board and flexes just a little bit at the nose and the tail. And so when you do have some of those bumps and waves, that the tail and the nose flexing a little bit actually absorbs them, but it doesn't lose the glide. It doesn't lose the performance because the center of the board stays so firm. So stability wise, A+, definitely on the more stable side. So if you're a larger paddler or someone that's worried about stability but want a higher performing touring adventure board, these probably would be at the top of our list for those for you. Between the 12 and the 14, I would say the 12 might be a little bit more stable, given that it's that extra inch wide, but you do have the length on the 14. So we've had beginners, you know, Griffin, who does a lot more on our e-bike site, test these out, and he found the 12 to be just a little bit more stable, but he was honestly great on both the 12 and the 14. So of all other, we've had 6'5" and 240 pound paddlers come out and test them out, and they're just great. So even if you're a beginner, even if you're very tall, even if you're a larger paddler that wants a little bit more performance, the Explorer series is going to be fantastic. So now we're moving on to speed, and as you notice, I'm on the 14 foot. And the reason for that is because it is the faster board between the two. Just to be expected, it's 2 feet longer, it's an inch narrower. But overall, we were very impressed with the speed. Usually it's a pretty big trade-off between stability and speed. And because of the rigidity of the Explorer Pro series, we did not find much of a trade-off. The 12 foot on our speed test got 5.6 miles per hour is where I was able to average. And on the 14, I was right around 6 to 6.1. And so just really good results for boards that are this stable. And I think that's a combination of being lighter weight, you know, 23 pounds on the 12 foot, 27 pounds on the 14 foot. And so even though they are a little bit wider, they're still very fast boards and have balanced that stability and speed really well. Now, personally, I'm really excited to see what Isle does with this InfinityFiber stringers, because I think they could make one hell of a race SUP. And that's my challenge to them, is maybe go a little thinner and more race SUP oriented. You would lose some of the kayak performance on that though. So I think what they did in balancing all those elements for a SUP / kayak, they really did a good job. Okay, on to tracking, and you'll notice I'm still on the 14 foot board, and that's because the 14 foot does track a little better than the 12 foot, as expected. Again, that inch being an inch narrower, 2 feet longer, does help with the tracking. But in general, honestly, if you're not going to need to worry about tracking, they've got that nice 9-inch touring fin. If you want even something bigger, you could go swap that out because it is that nice US fin box. But I honestly had no problem with tracking. Tracking is 95% your own technique. If you can keep the paddle straight, have a good catch, etc., you're going to really appreciate how well these track, how well they keep a line, and you're not going to be zigzagging back and forth as you try to keep up with your friends. Okay, and finally, maneuverability. How did the Explorer Pro series as touring adventure SUPs perform in maneuverability? And I will say they outperformed what we would expect, especially for a wider touring SUP. The 12-foot took about 5 reverse sweep strokes to fully turn around in a circle. The 14-foot, as expected, it did take a little bit more. It was about 6 or 7 strokes to turn around, but that's not generally how you're gonna totally flip around on a 360. You're gonna make minor adjustments there with a reverse sweep or a forward sweep stroke. And if you want to be more advanced and really turn on a dime, you're gonna need to be able to do a step back turn. That's where that extra width and stability actually comes in and makes this easier to maneuver, right? So as I move to the tail here, you'll notice that extra width it really does make it nice and stable. And I'm able just to spin around, see if I can not hit this tree. Nice and casually done there, right? And it just is a real stable platform for you to practice moving on the board, stepping back, doing that step back turn. And so in a way, because it's extra stable, it also is easier for a beginner, larger paddler to practice those advanced maneuverability skills with that step back turn. And overall, very impressed with the maneuverability, about what you would expect from a touring adventure SUP. So as you can tell, we're really big fans of the ISLE Explorer Pro series. It really is game changing and industry changing. And I know those words get thrown out kind of as marketing speak a lot. That's not where I'm going with this. It's the effect that these stringers are going to have on the industry. I think are going to be quite impactful and profound. And it's going to open a lot of different opportunities where in the past, with inflatables, it was kind of like you had to, I mean, there's still a lot of fun, but for really high performance, you're gonna go for a hardboard. I kind of wonder if in the future, if that's gonna change with this type of technology or as they build on this technology. And the ability for the Explorer Pro to be both a kayak, a very comfortable kayak as you see, and a stand-up paddleboard, right? Whereas, as you can tell from our review, we focused a little more on the stand-up paddleboarding aspect. That's kind of more my background, right? But it really is both. You know, what Jimmy Blakeney has done, what ISLE has done with these is just fantastic. And I think that if you're looking for a board that, you know, is a high weight capacity and highly stable board, you know, but still want performance in terms of speed and rigidity, these are going to be at the top of the list, and they're definitely going to be at the top of our best inflatable SUP / kayak paddle boards for this year. And I think they're going to be there for quite a while. So, you know, as we've gone through this review, if there's anything that we've missed or any additional questions that you have, please leave those down in the comments. There's also a link to the full in-depth review of both the 12-foot and the 14-foot Explorer Pros, where you'll see photos, all the in-depth testing that we've done. So definitely follow those links and check those reviews out. And then finally, as always, please like and subscribe to our channel. We're going to be putting out a lot more product reviews, but also really good educational videos on how to paddleboard better and how to just really get out and explore the world on these fantastic pieces of equipment. So with all that being said, this is Justin with SUPboard Guide. I hope to see you out on the water soon.